Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this evening session on MIAD 822, where we are going to treat past questions in preparation of our examinations. But before we do that I want you to go to the group, to the WhatsApp group. I dropped past questions in the group. So I want you to check the past question I dropped in the group. I don't know if you can open the past question. Just let me know if you open the past question, please. I just want you to open the past question. Let me know if you've opened the past question, please. It has to be interactive. At least I talk, and you talk, please.
Yes, I've been able to open it.
Very much. When you look at the past question, the first past question, in the document I dropped, there is 9 past questions. So if you look at the first past question, that is January 2022. The first question you see, what is the first question you see? What is the first question you see?
What is sustainable development?
Okay, what is the 1B?
1B is list and explain the elements of sustainable development.
Thank you very much. What is sustainable development? List and explain sustainable development. You understand? So that is on the first 3 questions. When you look at the third past question, out of the 9, you look at the third past question, that is in May 2022. What is the first question that is there?
Define sustainable development and explain its component.
Define sustainable development and explain its component. Right? So if you look at all the question, out of the 9 past question I shared with you, you will notice that the question, the definition of sustainable development and its component has come on several occasions. That says that it's likely question. I'm not saying it's going to come in this coming exam, but it's a likely question because it has been repetitively showing up in the previous examination. And this course is contemporary issues in sustainable development, which means that if you don't know anything in this course, you must know the definition of sustainable development, which is the first thing we are going to look at today. Defining sustainable development and knowing its components. Listen. So defining sustainable development, one thing we need to understand is that there is one generally acceptable definition when it comes to sustainable development. There is one generally acceptable definition when it comes to sustainable development. And the definition was formulated by the World Commission on Environment and Development. And so the definition says sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present. The development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own. Listen, sustainable development is the development that meets the need of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. With this definition, it's a widely acceptable definition. That is, whenever we talk about sustainable development, we are making emphasis on a development that is lasting. Our generation benefit from it, the next generation is going to benefit from it. Listen, before, sustainability was not the concern of the government of the world. People were not concerned about it. That is why you see that some of the development that happened in our forefathers' era are nowhere to be found again. But with sustainable development in practice, there's the development that meet the need of we that are currently present, and also those that are going to come in the future. So if you look at this definition, there is 2 principal points in this definition. There's 2 principal points in the definition. Number 1 is the concept of the needs of the president or of the present. Understand? That is providing the essential need of people. Understand? That is, we must prioritize the need of the people that are currently living on the hard surface. While the second one is the idea of the limitation. That is, if you are providing something for people now, we should not forget, we should not limit it. We should not restrict, we should not impose something that cannot be beneficial to people that are coming in the future. When you look at Nigeria as an example, you see that in Nigeria, there are some companies that exist during the Obasanjo regime that are no more existing in Nigeria in Tinubu regime. There are some companies that exist in Buhari regime that are going to die. So in essence, that is not sustainability in essence. What we are trying to do when we talk about sustainability, we are not talking about just economic growth or environmental conservation. So we are talking about how we can achieve an integrated approach to development that is viable to the present generation and the generation to come. So they ask us to define sustainability, sustainable. So in essence, sustainable development, it's the overall goal of maintaining development that has a long-term ability for both the economy and the environment. Achievable through the integration of economic aspect, environmental aspect, and the social concern in our decision-making process. Which means that whenever the government is trying to do something, they should also put it in mind that whatever we want to do should be sustainable, not only for people that are currently living, but people that are yet to come. If they build a road, school, it should be sustainable to the generation to come. Listen, you will see some schools in Nigeria, they are dilapidated. That is, they build it not for it to last longer for the generation to come. They just build it so that they can say that this government did this project without putting much effort in it. Yes, sir. So that is about sustainable development. Now, they now ask us to talk about the element of sustainable development. When you look at the elements of sustainable development, there are three pillars or three components or elements that sustainable development entails. Number one element is the economic sustainability. Economic sustainability. That is, if we are doing any decision-making process, we should think about how to put economic aspect in a way that it's going to be sustainable. Economic sustainability refers to the ability of an economy to support a defined level of economic production over an extended period of time. Look at Nigerian economy. If we look at it, we'll notice that Nigerian economy is not sustainable. As of 2016, a bag of rice was still 18,000 naira, which is 10 years back. When we go to 10 years back, it was still 16,000 naira. 18,000 naira. But in 2026, the bag of rice has tripled or even more than that. So the economy production is not being support is not sustainable to support a long-term period. Understand? So the economic sustainability demand that the development strategies of the government, understand, should create wealth that can be maintained or improved over the generations. The government should create wealth, understand, that can be maintained or improved over generation to come. Look at when Buhari was there. When Buhari was president, there was a time they said in Kaduna or Sokoto, there about in the north, that they have a pyramid of rice. That Nigeria is producing rice. That Nigeria, they have pyramid of rice. I think it's Abuja also, but in the north, that they have pyramid of rice. So you will notice that now people are buying it at an expensive way. If you are a major producer of rice, we should not be buying it at an expensive price. Do you understand? So, as the core element, the number one core element we mentioned is the economic sustainability. That is the development aspect of economy should be in a scale of long term that will be beneficial for the current generation and the future generation. Understand? So, because if the economy decision-making process in our country is not putting the next generation into consideration, we will also be complaining, and the next generation also will complain. Do you understand? So if today Nigeria is complaining, Nigerians are complaining that things are expensive, it's because there is no plan for economic sustainability. Understand? Because with economic sustainability, the government looks at the long-term process, how the economy is going to favor the next generation to come. There was a time $1 was 500 naira. Today is like 1,300 or 1,500. What are we doing as a country to maintain our currency, to maintain our industries? That's the economy. That's the number one component of sustainable development. The second component of sustainable development is the environmental sustainability. The first one is the economic sustainability. The second one is the environmental sustainability. So when we talk about environmental sustainability, we are concerned about the maintenance of the natural system and the process to sustain life on Earth. How do we maintain nature, and how do we sustain the life on Earth? Listen, people still eat bushmeat in some parts in Nigeria. Understand? People still do deforestation, afforestation. People still use charcoal to cook. So if you use charcoal, the element of charcoal is what? It's trees, which means that they cut trees. If they are cutting and they are not planting to replace it, they are causing problem to the environment. Understand? Look at the way there is air pollution in most part of Nigeria, in most part of their country. So, if there is rain, you will see that there is going to be erosion in some part, flood, erosion. So, with environmental sustainability, we are trying to talk about how to protect the environment, how to maintain clean water and air, understand? How to prevent soil degradation, how to manage forests responsibly, and how to combat climate change. That is about environmental sustainability. Understand? So, if we are pursuing the economic sustainability as the first component, then we should also put environmental sustainability as the second component by protecting nature and sustain the life on Earth. And when we are talking about the life on Earth, we are not talking about human being only. We are talking about animals. People are eating bushmeat every day in Nigeria, in Africa, which means that they are killing some species. They are killing. You will see that white men will condemn it in the UK that I am. If normally a farmer can go to the bush and just kill how do you call a bushmeat and they eat. But if they see me killing any animal publicly like this, I will not sleep in my house that night. which means that they are preserving them also. They are not only protecting human beings, they are also protecting the life on Earth. Because there are some species that are no more existing again because human being has caused harm on them. We've killed some species are no more existing. Listen. So the agenda, there is an agenda which we call the Agenda 2030. So 2030 agenda for sustainable development. Listen. So the 2020 sustainable development, if you look at the SDG goal 13, the SDG goal 13 talks about the climate action. How can we protect the environment? How can we protect the environment? Listen, the earth ecosystem needs to be protected. That is a core pillar of sustainable development, or core component or element of sustainable development. Listen, environmental sustainability. There are some areas in Nigeria you walk, you will see the cars, the smoke in the cars has polluted all the air. You cannot breathe freely. Listen, in this UK that I am, there are some places, if your car just bring unnecessary smoke, they will toll it. They will question you. Listen, so that is number two. That's environmental sustainability. Number three component or element or pillar of sustainable development is the social sustainability. Understand? Social sustainability. So before I talk about the social sustainability, I mentioned the SDG 13 on the environmental sustainability. We have the life SDG 13, 14, and SDG 15. Listen, Sustainable Development Goal, SDG, Sustainable Development Goal, SDG 13, 14, 15. 13 talks about action on climate action. 14 talks about life below water, that is those in water, the fish and the life, all the species in water. And 15 talks about life on land, how we are protecting life on land. Listen, so these three I mentioned, they are the core. Sustainable Development 13, 14, 15 talks about how we are protecting the climate change, life below water, and life on land. Listen, so that's just an addition to the environmental sustainability. So the third pillar, or the third component, or the third element of sustainable development is the social sustainability. Social sustainability. Understand? So when we are talking about the social sustainability, we are relating it to how we are going to maintain or improve our social system. How are we going to maintain and improve our social system? And when we are talking about our social system, justice, are people getting justice as they're supposed to get it? Is that equity in the society as it should be? Is that inclusion in the society? And the well-being of people, is it sustained? So a socially sustainable development, understand, put people into consideration without their race, their ethnic group, their religion, maybe their color or social economic status. Understand? That is, can anybody access good health care without problem? Can we all access clean water? Can we have food security? Can we all participate in governance without being pressurized or without being manipulated? Understand? So the social sustainability is talking about, sorry, I want to plug. The social sustainability is talking about how the society is going to be just. Like there's going to be justice in a society, equity and inclusion. How the well-being of people is put into consideration. Listen. So when you look at the three pillars, you will see the three pillars are the most important, but there is a lot of there are other pillars that follows. Economic sustainability being number one, environmental sustainability, the third one is social sustainability. Understand? So another pillar we can add to it is the governance sustainability or the institutional sustainability. Understand? The governance sustainability or the institutional sustainability. And whenever we talk about the governance sustainability or the institutional sustainability, we are trying to talk about a dimension whereby sustainability put the leaders into accountability, transparency. Listen. So, what is the quality of the institution, political institution we have in our country? Because if the political institution you have in your country is not stable enough to maintain themselves accountable, to put themselves accountable to the people, transparent enough to the people, they will not be able to achieve all the sustainable development goals. Listen, they will not be able to achieve all the sustainable. When you look at SDG 16, understand? So sustainable development goal 16 explicitly address that there should be peaceful and inclusive society. Peaceful and inclusive society. When you look at what is happening in Nigeria now, the court in Abuja, what happened in Nigeria, what is happening today, what happened today in Nigeria today, you will notice that the system, the judicial system is not doing what it's supposed to do to make everybody inclusive in political participation. Also, aside from that one, the institution or the governance sustainability is also talking about the justice for all. Listen, accountability and its inclusions. In some part of Nigeria, women are not allowed to even contest. They are in governance, but to contest, the men, they are going to, how do you call, they are going to restrict their participation in politics on a cultural base or religion base. They will find the reason based on culture or religion. So the three most important elements or component or pillar of sustainable development. Understand? Number one is economy. Number two is the environment. Number one, economic sustainability. Number two, environment sustainability. Number three is the social sustainability. And the last one you can add to it is the governance and sustainability. That's about the important three, what I mentioned earlier. Understand? So these are the how do you call the component? That's question number one we look at. That's question number one we look at. The question number one, as read by Regina, she said, what is sustainable development, and list and explain the element of sustainable development. So once you know if you don't know anything in this course, you must know the meaning of sustainable development, and you must also know the element. The element, as I said, economic, environment, and social sustainability. You list the three and you explain them. Am I communicating, please? If you are with me, let me know, please. Let me know if you are with me.
Yes, sir. You're communicating. Thank you.
Yes, you are communicating.
Thank you very much. So there is another question in a past question I shared with you. The question says, I want you to look at that question. If you look at the past question number 2, in that question I said, and the document I sent in the group, there is 9 past questions. If you look at past question number 2, the question says, can anyone read that question for me, please? Past question number 2.
Critically.
No, past question number 2.
Okay.
Past question number 2.
Number 2. Is it the first question?
No, yeah, the first question in past question number 2.
Okay, define the term indicator and explain why it is important to measure sustainability.
Define the terms indicator and explain why it is important to measure sustainability. Listen, indicators. What are the indicators that we can use to measure sustainability? Listen, because how do we measure, or how do we know that government are working to achieve the sustainable development goals? Do you understand? That is the question. That's what the question is asking us. Because by 2030, all the countries, they are going to sit down again and evaluate what they've achieved and what remain for the next generation to achieve again. So by that period, as I said, work, there's going to be new set of jobs that are going to be created. Listen, people will have a lot of opportunity will be available by that period. Maybe that period we will have gotten all the necessary work experience. Now, the question says we should define indicators and explain why it is important. Understand? So when we are talking about indicator, we are making reference to a quantifiable measure that help to understand where you are, which direction you should take, and how far you are from your targets. You understand? An indicator shows where you are, which direction you should take, and how far you are from the target you have. That is what we know as indicator. Now, it's like you give yourself a target. Give yourself a target to read like 10 pages per day, but you've read like 5 pages. You've done 5 pages. So the indicator is going to ask you where you are 5 pages. Which direction I need to take to complete the 10 pages? I need to continue reading. Understand? How far are you to the 5 pages? How many minutes or how many hours remain to finish the remaining 5? That is about indicator. It helps you to evaluate your movement. Now, when we are talking about sustainable development, indicator in sustainable development is a tool that alert policymakers and community to problems before they become too severe, and help to identify that and identify the problem. Understand? So it's just how do you call a measure or a tool that helps to identify problem because before the problem become too severe. And it helps to identify what corrective action should be taken. When you look at, we call I think most from the north, from Abuja to most part of the north, they have in each government, like in each state, they have SEMA, state emergency. They call it state emergency something. They have said, I think that the name is SEMA, SEMA. Listen, that is they are in Bauchi. They just call the Ministry of Humanitarian and Disasters Management. So the SEMA, they are there to see the problems. Maybe there is flood. Maybe they say that there is going to be rain in some part of the country. If they notice that there is going to be rain in some part of the country and there is going to be flood, they will make announcement that, oh, there's going to be rain. Oh, there's going to. So how did they know that there's going to be rain? How did they know that there's going to be flood? Understand? So you will notice that sometimes the state governor in most part of the north, the state governor, they have this SEMA. Understand that they send information in case there is going to be flood or in case there is going to be erosion. They send information to people so that people are ready for it. So an indicator in sustainable development is a tool that allows the policy maker and communities to problem before it becomes too problematic, because before it becomes too severe. You understand? So how are policymakers aware that there is going to be a problem? Listen. So indicator of sustainable development, understand? It alerts the policymaker on steps to take before problem arise. Understand? So sustainable development indicators, they are fundamentally different. They are fundamentally different from the traditional indicators we have. Understand? So the traditional indicator, for instance, now, let's say an example of a traditional indicator is if there is we want to curb the rate of how do you call asthma. Let's say you want to cut the rate of asthma. You understand? So they will usually look at the percentage of people that have asthma. Understand? And be chanting in the news, okay, this is what you need to do to not have asthma. This is if you have asthma, this is what you need to do to curb it down, to stop it down. But with sustainable development, they are going to find means to stop the next generation or to stop the expansion of this asthma, instead of just to be talking about how to maintain yourself, but they are going to talk about how to stop the next people to have it, or what we should do to cure it. So with sustainable development indicators, understand, we are reflecting, we are trying to. I want to look at an example now. Now, there is IMF. There was a time IMF says that Nigeria in year 2000 and I think 2028 or thereabout, that then people are going to be more poorer in Nigeria. Listen, I don't know whether you've read that news. I think 2028 or 2030 they mentioned that in the years to come people are going to be more poorer in Nigeria. That's an indicator. That's an indicator. So it's not just to make people afraid, is to let them know that things are going to be worse. So what are our policy makers doing? They're supposed to find solution to it. When you calculate things, you see that there's going to be a problem in the future. Policy makers now put down decisions, or they put down plans to make sure that things go well with them. So the most common tools used in policy, in sustainable development indicator before, traditionally, we use the GDP, gross domestic product. Listen, the gross domestic product measure the total market value of goods and services produced in a country. That is where we try to know, okay, if the country is producing more and exporting more outside, or they are producing less and importing more inside. That is what they used before. You understand? But when you look at the GDP measure only economic activity. If you use GDP as an indicator of sustainable development, the GDP measure only economic activities. Understand? Whether the activity is beneficial to people or it is harmful to the people, it will measure only activity, economic activity. Understand? Now, with sustainable development that is out now, they now introduce what we know as the HDI, the Human Development Index. So instead of us to be using the GDP to know how far things are going well in the society or how worse things are going in the society, they now incorporate the HDI, which is the Human Development Index. Because with the Human Development Index, we are incorporating health of the people in the society, the inequality level in the society, and the educational dimension alongside the economic data. Which means that we are looking at 40s. We are not looking at only the economic aspect. The GDP as an indicator, look, it is traditional. And we've shifted away from the traditional ways of knowing how far the country is going. If you want to know how well the country is going, you will know. Normally, they look at the GDP. Some people will say, when Buhari was dead, the Nigerian economy was like 3 trillion. Tinubu came, it is now like 6 trillion that Tinubu is working. People will say that one. But is that sustainable enough? Let us calculate the HDI, the Human Development Index aspect. Are people able to access good healthcare services? What is the level of inequality in the country? Are people able to access the educations? I think Tinubu is very trying. I'm not Tinubu fan, but he's trying when it comes to education. I think they put something like NEL fund that they give loan to students to go to school. That on that part, I commend him. So in essence, with the HDI, you are looking at the health aspect. You are looking at the inequality aspect. Women and men, are they able to compete together in an elective post? I may mention of the North a lot of time when it comes to this kind of stuff, because I work a lot with Northern, and so I know how things are not equal when it comes to political participation of men and women. So that is about indicator. So characteristics of effective indicators. Characteristics of effective indicator. That is, when you look at indicator, for you to know if the indicators, the sustainable indicators in the society, for you to know if it's working. So for you to know if it's working, so what are the characteristics? Number one characteristic of indicator. So I'm sorry, my charger is low. My number one characteristic of indicator is relevant. Relevant. Number one characteristic of indicators or sustainable indicator is relevant. That is, an indicator must be relevant to the system being measured. You know, when you go to the filling station, the fuel gauge that they used to measure fuel, when they put fuel, is to measure how many liters they've put in the car. They said that is how the indicator must be. So a sustainable indicator must measure something that is genuinely important to the society or community on a long-term goal. Look at Nigeria. When a government comes, after it's going like this, the next government that is coming in, they will trash whatever the other government do. They will not start from zero again. Instead of all to continue from where they stop and move forward, they will not continue from where it stopped. They will trash everything and start from zero again. They are not looking at long term. That is a problem we are having in Nigeria. We are not looking at long term. That's number one. Relevant. That is, it should be relevant. The indicator must be relevant to what we are measuring. Number two characteristics, it must be understandable. The sustainable development must be, after it is relevant, it must be understandable. That is, the indicator must communicate clearly with the expert and non-expert. Which means that if you are not in the field, you must be able to understand it if they are talking about it. Because on the norms, an information cannot be shared with people if they don't understand. Understand? If they don't understand the information. So before the information can be understood, before they can understand that information, understand, that means it is well communicated in a language that they understand. That is why sometimes in the radio system you will see they will speak Igbo, they will speak Hausa, they will speak Yoruba, they will speak different language so that to put people in place. This is what we are saying. In case you don't understand English, you understand Yoruba. If you don't understand Yoruba, you understand Hausa or Igbo, or you understand Bibi, you shall understand something. Listen. So the indicator must be understandable to the people. That's number 2. Number 3 characteristics of indicator is it must be reliable. After being relevant, it must be understandable. After being understandable, it must be reliable. Understand? That is, that indicator they are using to measure development in the society, that indicator must reflect the conditions it purports to measure. That is, it must show. It's not that the government is not working and we lie that the government is working. No, we must show the real information out. Understand? Because unreliable data lead to wrong decision-making process, wasted resources, and missed opportunity to correct the problem. Understand? When you look at Nigeria, you see that sometimes, when the government wants to do something, it takes information before it do. It takes information. But if the information that is given to them is not correct, that means we've spoiled the chances, the opportunity. We've spoiled opportunity and chances for better things to be done. Listen. So we must not bring an unreliable information, an information that the government cannot rely, because if the information is not reliable or it is wrong, it's going to mislead the decision makers or the policy maker. And if it misleads the decision maker, then it's like a wasted resources or wasted efforts. Listen. Number 4 characteristics of an indicator, of a characteristic of a good sustainable indicator. Understand? It must be based on accessible and timely data. Because for an indication to be actionable, for people to know that this information you are giving out, or this thing that you are saying that is happening in society, you must put date and time that you get information. Because if you put date and time, it's going to how do you call, facilitate the decision, the response. Understand? Data that arrives too late, if you send an information that is too late. Understand? If you send an information that is too late, that information you send too late cannot prevent a problem. When you see a problem as a leader or as a decision maker, when you see a problem, you should send the information timely so that those in charge are going to have access to it. There was a time we were working on how do you call flood in Bauchi. Listen, I was in UK then. I was in UK, so I think 2000 August September 2023. So we had a mission to help people in Bauchi communicate regarding flood. It's usually September period, if I'm not mistaken. People in Bauchi will know. So that the rain usually comes, and sometimes the rain is too much, so that we should communicate. So what we do is that even before the rainy season, we send out information out. We send information to radio station that they should communicate about the coming flood. Because people build shops, they build houses, they build tents on those passage of rain. So this passage will cause flood. So we don't want to chase them forcefully. So what we do, we send information on, because people listen to radio. Some of them don't have Facebook, but they listen to radio. So we send an information in time. So when you send information in time, they listen to it and they know that, okay, this next month, rain is going to fall, but this rain that is coming, is the density of the rain is too much. That's a timely information being sent out. Nigeria has a functional methodology, but people don't trust a meteo. They don't trust the weather forecast. But we have a functional one, but people don't trust it. So I've mentioned 4 characteristics, and in our course material, you can see other characteristics also of sustainable indicator. Now, there is a question, the first question, that why is it important to measure sustainable development? Why is it important to measure it? Number one reason why it is important to measure sustainable development is to track or to assess progress. How do we know that we are progressing if we are not measuring our progression? That is why in the school they do exam to know that, okay, with the exam they can know that you understand what they are teaching you. Listen. So measuring sustainable development, using an indicator to measure sustainable development, listen, help organization, government, and community to determine whether the sustainable development investment are yielding a good result. Because without measuring our sustainable development, it is impossible to know whether we've achieved our targets. You understand? So without this organization, without measuring it, it's going to be impossible to know whether we've achieved sustainable development. And so I want to plug my phone, please. So another important reason why we measure sustainable development, understand, is to encourage broader stakeholder participation. I want to charge my phone. So it's to encourage broader stakeholder participation. Because when sustainable development goals are translated into a measurable indicator, they become accessible to a wider range of people, stakeholders. It can be citizen, it can be businessmen, it can be civil society or government. Which means that sometimes to achieve a sustainable development goal, it is not only the responsibility of the government, it's the responsibility of different stakeholders. Do you understand? So, in essence, what we are trying to understand, what we are trying to say is that if you want to achieve the sustainable development, different stakeholders are going to be involved, not only the government sometimes. Another important why we are measuring sustainable development, is to meet or anticipate new requirements. So when we are measuring our sustainable development, it's going to tell us which level we are, which level we need to go, and what other people are doing. What other people are doing in their country to meet their own targets. Because things are evolving. Maybe you are not aware of what other countries are doing, but while you are measuring your own and you are comparing with another country own, you will know that maybe they are doing something that you are not doing. So measuring sustainable development is going to help you to meet or anticipate new requirements. So another reason why we measure sustainable development is that it helps us to identify programmatic barriers. Because if you are measuring sustainable development, you will be able to know the problem, the obstacle that is hindering you to achieve your targets. Because some barrier might not be visible. Understand? It might not be visible just like that. But by measuring it, by knowing that, okay, are we doing the right thing? So if you are not doing the right thing, then you will be able to see what you should do to achieve the right thing or to achieve your target. Listen, and the reason why we measure sustainable development is to communicate benefit and goal. We measure sustainable development to communicate benefit, and that is measuring sustainable development, understand, help us to know the benefit, understand, of what we are doing. Benefit of sustainable development, understand. It helps us to know it and also communicate it to stakeholders, political leaders, investors, and public. So without a credible information about how we've achieved it or where we are in our sustainable development goal, without credible information, understand, we are going to lack power to communicate it to people. Understand? So this is the question on the indicators of sustainable development. So this is a question on sustainable indicator on sustainable development. So I want you to read another. I'm charging my phone. That's why you're not seeing my face, please. Now, please, can you please open the past question again? Past question number 1. When you look at the past question number 1, you look at question number 2. The question number 2. Can anybody read that question number 2 for me? Question number 2.
Number 2, critically examine why some countries are rich and some are poor.
Critically examine why some countries are rich and some are poor. So, why some are rich, why some are poor. Listen, look at past question number 3. Past question number 3, question 2.
Explain why some countries are rich and some are poor.
Explain why some countries are rich and some countries are poor. You see, critically examine why some countries are rich and some countries are poor. Explain why some countries are rich and some are poor. Listen. So, when you look at past question number 4, you will see past question number 4, question 4. You will also see another question there that looks same to it. What's the question?
Discuss the ways by which poor countries can improve their economies towards ending abject poverty.
Discuss the ways poor countries can improve their economy towards ending abject poverty. So he's talking these questions we've read, talking about poor country, why they are poor and how they can shift away from poverty. Yes, and so you look at the, how do you call? Look at past question number 6, question 1. Past question number 6, question 1. What's the question saying?
Past question 6.
Question 1.
3, 4, 5, 6. Using concepts contained in your course materials, discuss why some countries are poor while others are rich.
Using concept contained in your course material, discuss why some countries are poor, why others are rich. Yes, so you see that the questions critically examine why some countries are rich and some are poor, using the concept in your course material to explain why some are rich and some are poor. You will notice that they are all talking about poor country and rich country. Understand that? So we are going to look at that one. Why some are poor, why some are rich. Listen. So economists and development scholars, they've identified several major factors that account for the differences in rich countries and poor countries. Listen. And number one reason is on technology and productivity. So technology and productivity. Because technological innovation is the primary source of sustained productivity growth. Listen, a society that is industrialized, that is at a industrial revolution, will always do better than a society that is not, that does not have the required industry or technology. Listen, today, in the rich countries are distinguished by high technology production, automation, telecommunication, and research. But on contrary, the poor country, many poor countries, including Nigeria, they continue to rely on labor-intensive method with low productivity. When you go to the market today, you enter the market in Nigeria. You understand? When you enter the market, you will see how people are working tirelessly in the sun. Some people carrying load on their head. Some people pushing wheelbarrow. So not only in Nigeria, most developing country, when you go there, you will see how people are. Instead of them to think of a sustainable way, a practical way to make this thing easier. Must we all carry load on our head before we eat? Must we push wheelbarrow before they eat? Listen, are they UK? I never see anybody for UK where they say, let us carry load for you in the market, or let us push wheelbarrow for you. Because they put down a system, a technological system, that after buying your load, your goods in the supermarket, you call your Uber, you call your taxi. If you don't want money for taxi, you wait for public bus, which is accessible to everybody. So number one reason why some are poor, why some are rich is technology and the productivity. If you have higher technology in your country, listen, high technology production system in your country, telecommunication, automation, research, and development capacity, if you have it in your country, you are going to be rich. But if you rely on the traditional method, the labor-intensive method, you are going to have low production. Look at farmers. Farmers in Nigeria, they still use cutlass, whereby some are using tractors, they are using machine, they are still using cutlass. You go there and all their back will be paining them. Instead of them to sit inside the machine and be commanding the machine to do the work. This is number one. Number two reason why some countries are rich, why some are poor: the geography and the natural resources. The geography play a significant role in determining the development outcome, though it is not a destiny. Understand? It is not the real factors. Understand? But the geography and the natural resources also give a better point. Factors such as rivers, fertile soil, temperature, climate, mineral resources, they favor a lot of countries. Listen, if the country know how to use these resources, these mineral resources, they are going to favor them. But because most countries, they let themselves to be manipulated, that is why they are suffering. They have it, but they leave themselves to manipulate. So countries like some poor countries, understand? Like how do you call Singapore, Japan, and the likes, they've achieved their own resources through human capital because they don't have these mineral resources. For Nigeria, Congo, Ghana, we are rich in natural resources. We are rich in natural resources, But we have we fall into that concept they call the resource cost. Like it's like the resources we have as a country, as Nigeria, the resources we have that should be beneficial to us is the resources that is putting Nigeria as a country into a problem. Listen, so normally the geography and the natural resources you have should make you rich. But some countries that have all the mineral resources are still poor because they fall into the cost of resources. Cost like CURCE, causing that is the resources we have is causing problem to us. Listen, we have all the mineral resources you can think of, but the mineral resources has caused corruption, conflict, and poor governance, rather than focusing on development. Listen, number 3 reason why some countries are poor and some countries are rich, listen, is the institution and the culture in place. Institution and the culture in place in that particular country. And inclusive economic institutions. Understand? A country that has an inclusive economic institution, such as secure property rights, free market, the rule of law, protection from arbitrary, understand? Innovation and hard work, compensation for hard work. Such society are going to develop. But if a society or an institution or a culture, understand, only concentrate wealth or power to the elite, discouraging hardworking people, such society is going to be poor. Understand? A society that encourages people to have property, that encourages people to have to work harder. They are going to produce, they are going to develop. But a society that does not encourage hard work, that is why you see that any politician that wants to be a politician, they will be thinking how to make their family rich. They will not think about any other thing. Whether the country is suffering or not, they don't care. We all see in Nigeria case that the Lagos Calabar coastal road was given to somebody. I will not mention name. It was given to somebody. A major road also was given to the same person. Encouraging other engineers, other contractors to be involved. They are just putting it in one and they are not encouraging other people. Listen. So the institution and the culture that is practiced, if the culture in the country encourage people to work harder, that society or country is going to be developed. But if it doesn't encourage people. You know, Nigeria, we have social houses in Nigeria. But how many people have access to the social houses? The social house whereby maybe you pay like 5 million. Once you pay 5 million, the government give you the house and you pay small till maybe 10 years, 20 years. We have it in Nigeria, but how many people have that access to it? If you don't know the right people, they will not give you. Listen, so that's number 3. Number 1, we mentioned the technology and productivity. That is, if the country has good technology and they are innovative enough, they can be developed. But if the country rely on the traditional method, they will poor. So, number 2, we mentioned the geography and the resources. That is, if a country has the necessary mineral resources, they will use it. So the geography. Maybe they have the mineral resources, good soil, fertile soil, and the like. They will be rich. But the reverse is the case for some countries like Nigeria and Congo. Congo has they call it cobalt. Cobalt, yeah. They call it cobalt. They use it in most iPhone and Tesla electric cars. Congo have it, but they are poor. Congo Republic, the Republic of Congo. They have it, but they are poor. Nigeria have all the mineral resources, yet we are not richer than UK. Because all this UK and all the they don't have what we have. Listen, so because of poor governance, corruption, and conflict, you will notice that in all the zone that they have mineral resources in Nigeria, they have gold, they have crude oil, they have any mineral resources you might be thinking of. Go and look at all the area they have it. There is conflict. There is armed conflict there. Listen, before Kwara was not there, but since they discovered gold in Kwara, they discovered some mineral resources in Kwara. You see that they've been killing people, they've been adopting people in Kwara. That is why USA also is targeting Kwara, that some terrorists are in Kwara. Listen, so number 3 reason why some countries are poor and some countries are rich is freedom and capability. Freedom and capability. That is, countries that invest in education, public health, gender equality, and civil liberty, they expand the capability of their citizens. Son, they expand the capability of the citizen. So, because if they are expanding the capability of the citizen will be able to contribute effectively to economy and social life. Now, on the other hand, if a country is neglecting this aspect, there is no way they will be able to compete with countries that value these things. Listen, so the freedom, if you value education, you are putting more money in your education, the public health sector, gender equality, so people have freedom. So when we are talking about sustainable development in that aspect, is the ability or capability of people to live the life that has a value, that has reason. When you look at some countries in Africa, people just live. They wake up, they sleep, they wake up, they wake up, finish. Because they are not being motivated. Sometimes you wake up on a Monday, say you are discouraged. You want to go to work, but you are discouraged. But you don't have choice. You go. Because if you sit down at home, who will feed you? Where you are going also, you are not happy that you are there. Do you understand? So it's also a problem. Listen. So another reason why some countries are poor and some countries are rich is trade and economic integration. Trade and economic integration. That is, access to international markets enables developing countries to specialize in goods they produce relatively efficient. If in Nigeria we produce, let's say Nigeria, we produce cashew or we produce rice. I'm just taking an example. Now, let me take Ivory Coast and Ghana. Ivory Coast and Ghana, they produce cocoa. Cocoa is more in Ivory Coast and Ghana. So you see that because of free trade or economic integration, they have access to international markets. Most of the chocolates we eat, most of them, the cocoas are from Ivory Coast and Ghana. Most of them, they export a lot to outside Ivory Coast. They export a lot to Europe. Listen, so if a country have access to international market, there is no way such country is going to be poor. They are going to take advantage of product they produce efficiently. So by doing so, it is going to benefit the economy. Listen, so in essence, the trade, when you look at trade, countries that they are enclosed, they are not transacting with the outside world. Such countries, it is difficult for them to grow economically. As a country, you do business, you transact with the outside world. So you export less and you produce you import. You export more and you import less. But if the reverse is the case, countries that import more and export less, it is going to be very difficult for them to grow. Listen, so trade is also a factor of why some countries are poor or some are rich. Another factors of why some countries are poor or rich is the colonial factors or the colonial disadvantage or experience. Because colonial power have extracted resources, distorted institutions development, and imposed artificial border. They suppress people. Understand? So all the nation, all their colony, either in Africa or in Asia or in Northern America, all the colony they have is affecting, all what they did in the colonization era has affected the economic development. What they did before 1960 is affecting Nigeria up to 2026. So the effect of this history continue to influence development outcome. So before Nigeria will do something, if it does not favor the world power, Nigeria will reverse it. So it has to favor them. Although they are no more in Nigeria, they are no more our colonial master, but because they've once been our colonial master, listen, some decision also depend on them. That is psychology of dependency. The psychology of dependency. We are not depending on them directly, but it is psychology of dependency. Listen, but one thing you need to understand is that there is no single factor that explains why some countries are poor and why some countries are rich. There are many factors that explain it. Listen, we've mentioned technology aspect, we've mentioned the institutional aspect, the cultural aspect, we've mentioned geographical aspect, the historical aspect, the trade and economic aspect. Listen, there are many factors that influence the decision of why some countries are poor and why some countries are rich. But you should just know that, okay, technology is there, institution is there, geography is there, human capital, history is there, international economy is there. Even if there are going to be any other, what we've mentioned are some of the factors that explain why some countries are rich and why some are poor. So the gap between the rich countries and the poor country is not inevitable. Listen, we can see the gap. If you just live outside Nigeria, outside Africa for 1 week, you will see the gap clearly that a lot is happening. A lot is happening. When I first came to the UK, I was not having clothes. I came to the UK with 2 Ghana must go. I didn't buy suitcase. People were buying suitcase. I didn't. Me window waiting chase me away from Ivory Coast. I was not in Nigeria then. Now Ghana must go. I took from Ivory Coast. That 2 Ghana must go, full of food. That is, if I don't get job, I don't buy clothes. But when I get to UK, I got clothes for free. I went to charity, and I informed them that I just came to the UK, and they gave me food, they gave me shoe, they gave me for free. But in Nigeria, they will sell it. Although those clothes they gave me then is what we people in Nigeria will call it London used clothes. Understand now? So most of our Nigerians, they take it and they sell it in Nigeria, but they gave me for free. But our society in Nigeria or in Africa doesn't give room for that. Everybody are thinking about business. Listen. So the SDG goal is aiming to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor. Between the rich country and the poor country. Although the gap will still be there, but reducing it in a small way. So there is a question you read now. The question says, suggest a possible way of bridging the gap between the rich country and the poor countries. Ways, how can we reduce the gap? The gap is too wide. How can we reduce it? Can anybody give how do you call an answer to it? To your own understanding, how do you think we can reduce the gap between the rich country and the poor country? Anybody to just, let's, based on your own understanding. I know we are all exposed, so based on your own understanding, how do you think you can reduce the gap between the rich country and the poor country? Anybody to help? Anybody to contribute? Anybody to contribute? How can we reduce?
One of the ways is, for me, one of the ways is by strengthening institutions. How do I explain? For example, we are fond of saying there are a lot of policies, but they are just on paper. They are not active on. They are not active. They are not working documents. Let's put it like that. So if we can strengthen systems, if we can, invest in education, invest in technology, invest in innovations, like for real, most of the times the government will say this is what we budgeted, whatever, this billion of naira, but the Nigerian system, for example, you see that the money does not really get to these places, and even if it gets to the places, there are no systems place that these monies are properly directed to where they're supposed to be utilized. So that's why I said one of the things to do is system strengthening, system of accountability, and all of that.
So we should strengthen our institution. The institution should be functional. They should be working. That's a point. That's a point. Any other point for us? We're supposed to stop at 8, but let's finish this one. So another way to bridge the gap between the rich country and the poor country is to invest in education and human capital. Invest in education and human capital, because education is the most powerful level for long-term development. If people are educated in your country and they get things to do with that education, as I said, they are going to be productive. So the universal access to education, allowing people to have quality access to education, especially girls and women, they should have access to quality education. So, because if they have access to quality education, is going to improve, is going to improve their productivity. So investing in education and human capital is also a method to bridge the gap between the poor countries and the rich country. So especially education for women and girls, because they also need to be productive in the society. Another thing to bridge the gap between the rich country and the poor country is promote gender economic equality. We should promote gender economic equality. When we are talking about gender economic equality, we mean that we should allow the society to allow women have equal access to economic resources, labor market, and decision making. So in Nigeria, you see that in Nigeria currently, in the Senate, I think we have only 4 women in the Senate. Only 4. Or 3 or 4 in the Senate, which is very poor. So we are not putting women. We are not putting women in action. We are not considering women in Nigeria in decision-making process and so on. So we need to find a way to remove legal and social barrier to women economy participation. I said, because that is going to boost the economy also. If we are saying that, it's only men that can do things, women are just left in the kitchen, it's a problem. We cannot produce better things. So another way to bridge the gap between the poor countries and the rich country is We should tackle illicit financial flaws and tax violation or tax avoidance. When you look at developing countries, the developing countries are losing a lot of money. People are not paying tax in Nigeria. So people are, as Tinubu said, they will be paying tax now. A lot of people are crying. So because that is what we call tax evasion in Nigeria. But when you look at developed country, there is no way you will be able to evade tax in the UK. There is no way you will be able to run away from tax. Last year I was owing them 6,000 for my council tax. I don't pay them this year, £6,000. I said I will not pay. They were just sending me letter, call upon call. So there is no way. So far they have your name in the database, you cannot evade tax. Salary tax, you cannot evade salary tax in this UK, in this abroad. Anything you want to do, you cannot evade tax. I said, so poor countries should find a way to tackle tax avoidance because they are losing a lot of money through that one. So, and you see, a lot of multinational corporations that are in our country, they don't pay tax. Even if they pay, they are not paying the correct tax. And this is making poor country. What they cannot do abroad or what they cannot do in developed country, that is what they are doing in developing country. Listen, there are some call centers in Nigeria. They pay salary 150,000 naira, and these call centers are in the UK. The same call centers, they are in the UK, and they pay up to 1,700, 1,800 pounds. But in Nigeria, they pay 200,000, 150,000 naira. Do you get? And these companies, they are not paying tax also. They are avoiding tax also in Nigeria. And another way we can use to bridge the gap between a poor country and a rich country is that we should increase and improve development aid. Increase and improve development aid. Understand? So things that are going to bring development in the society, the government should focus on that capacity on building development. That we should not be depending always on developing country. We should build those capacity that are going to bring in development. Listen. So we see wealthy countries have a system that improve or aid development. But we as a developing country, we are not considering to put down things that are going to encourage development. Understand? So the gap between us can be reduced if we consider increasing or improving development aspects, things that are going to bring in development. Understand? So we should stop being reliance on any other countries for for sustainable or for growth. Understand? And the last one is that we should find poor countries to strengthen global governance and institution. Understand? So that is, you see, developing countries or poor countries must have a stronger voice in international institutions like the United Nations, the World Bank, the International Organization, IMF, that's the International Monetary Fund, the World Trade Organization. Poor countries or developing countries should have a stronger voice because we don't have veto power. We don't have stronger voice. So that because decisions that affect the global economy are taken in these organizations. So if we don't have stronger voice, they will take decisions that will usually be against us. You understand? We all know about the IMF conditionality, the World Bank conditionality. The World Bank or the IMF conditionality makes developing country like it looks like they are helping us, but in reality they are not helping us. Listen, because if an African country went to go and borrow money in IMF and is getting like over 100% interest rate, and an European country went to go and get the same amount of loan from IMF, and that country is getting like 5% interest rate, you will notice that we in Africa is like we are being enslaved indirectly. They are giving us money, but we are paying more. So if we have a voice in these institutions, if we have stronger voice in this institution, we will have a say in the decision-making process on decisions that affect us as a country. So this is here, we are going to call it a day here. If you have a question, you can ask a question.